Hey everybody, I'm back again with a very simple and easy dog treat recipe. But today I'm gonna put a bit of a savory twist on this. Now, what we're gonna use today is oat flour. You can make this with whole wheat flour or another dog-friendly flour, but I do like to use oats a lot because they pack a lot of nutritional value. And to get oat flour, you can just buy it in the store, or like I now do, is just using just oatmeal, whole oats, or even the quick oats, as long as it doesn't have any sugar or added flavorings. Toss it in your blender or your food processor and just blend it up, and then you end up with this nice flour that you can bake your treats with. So that's what we're working with today. I've already blended mine up. I've got some extras kind of set aside. I like to do that just in case the dough is coming out a little sticky or tacky. I can just, add in a little more oat flour to balance it out. But what I have in the bowl here is just 2 cups of oat flour. And then I'm gonna use some canned pumpkin. This is just $1 a can. I say this all the time. I love to keep canned pumpkin on hand because it's super affordable, but it also adds a lot of fiber and other nutrients to your dog's food. So whether it's treats like we're making today or other meals, you can just add some pumpkin to it. So that's what I have here is pumpkin, and I'm only gonna use maybe about 1/4 cup of the pumpkin, and then roughly 1/2 cup of chicken. That's what I have here. Now today I've got, this is just chopped up chicken that I had already cooked, and it has a little bit of the, I call it pan drippings, or from the crock pot or Instant Pot, wherever you cooked it. Sometimes I like to save the drippings and juices, especially for treats, because it makes it super, super flavorful. So we've got our 2 cups of oat flour. I've got my chicken here. It's already measured out. I'm just gonna kind of add that right into the bowl. It smells so good. And then I'm gonna go ahead and then add my pumpkin. Oh, and here's another thing. So I also like to add a little bit of oil. Now there are a lot of dog treat recipes out there on the internet. Some are great, some are kind of iffy as far as the ingredients. I try to keep it as clean as possible, which is why I like to use the oat flour. And I'm using meat. There's some out there that you say add a couple of bananas or peanut butter or things like that. And peanut butter is okay. I'm learning a lot that peanut butter, there are better things. I feel like if there's a better alternative or something I can substitute with more nutritional value, then that's kind of the road I like to go. So that's why today we've got the oat flour, some chicken, and then I'm using, I'm adding this canned pumpkin. But to add a little healthy fat content, I'm gonna actually add in about 1 tablespoon of this isn't olive oil, this is avocado oil. Now you don't have to do this, especially if you're doing a treat that has peanut butter in it, because peanuts are a fat, and so there's a lot of oil content and fat content with that. But since this is a bit cleaned up version, I'm gonna add my healthy oil, and it just kind of helps bind and tie it all together really nicely. So that's my oat flour, 2 cups. I've got roughly 1/2 cup of some cooked chicken. And then now I'm gonna go ahead and scoop in some of my pumpkin. Now I'm an eyeball kind of cook, but I'm kind of measuring this out for y'all so you can kind of see. So 4 tablespoons is gonna be the same as about 1/4 cup. And I'm gonna start with that and then see how the texture of the dough looks. You want it to be sticky, but you want it to form. So again, you've got your set aside oat flour, and then to dry it out a little bit, or if it's a little dry, you can add a little bit more pumpkin or a little more of your healthy oil if you want to do that. So what I'm going to do first is just kind of gently mix in some of the ingredients that I have in now. And that's the chicken. It's just chicken, pumpkin, and oats, and the oat flour. And I'm just kind of, as I'm stirring, I'm kind of, I guess you could say, mashing and blending it in, smushing, however you want to say it. Yeah, so it's pretty moist already, I can tell. Now this is another thing that's optional, but you guys can add this if you want, is I like to add in dried herbs when I can. And so for today, all I have here is just a little bit of dried parsley, and this is maybe half a teaspoon. I'm just kind of sprinkling that in. Parsley is a great herb for your dogs, fresh or dried. But do your own research and see if that's something you want to try for your dog. And then this is rosemary. I love rosemary. Rosemary is another one that has a lot of good health benefits for your dog. And that just makes it smell amazing. So I'm kind of blending it in. So I can tell already mine's a little on the wet side. And I make this recipe quite a bit. I do change it up. Like today we're doing chicken. You could throw in some ground turkey or ground beef, whatever protein you kind of have on hand. And then just kind of take it from there. So I'm gonna take, I'm gonna sprinkle in a little more of this oat flour. This is probably less than a 1/4 cup. But again, as you make this, just eyeball it as you go. But it's just such a great recipe. So while you are doing this portion of the dog treat, you want to have your oven preheated to 300 degrees. And then once this is done, you're gonna spread this mixture out on your baking sheet. I'm gonna add a little more oat flour. I think because I added some of those pan drippings, it just made it a little moist, a little more juicy, which is fine. Yeah, this is good now. Okay, so yeah, so you've got the oven preheated. You'll have your oven preheated to 300, and then you're going to prepare your baking sheets. And I've got one here, and I've got a sheet of parchment paper. If you don't use parchment paper or don't have it, that's fine. Just make sure that you oil your pan really, really well to avoid any kind of, so it doesn't stick. But again, that's another reason why it's nice that there's a decent fat content in this recipe as I'm making it from the oil, and that kind of helps with that as well. So I've got my dough pretty much how I want it. And then I've got my pan here. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a switcheroo. So again, parchment paper is excellent because obviously the whole point of that is so it keeps things from sticking. But I also still like to add a little bit of oil to my paper. And I know not everybody does that, but that's something that I like to do. And it has another little added benefit, so I'll show you in a second. And I meant, when I say I add oil, I mean it's not even half a teaspoon. I'm just barely drizzling it on because a little bit goes a long way. Okay, so what's nice about that, so now my oil is on the paper, and I'm gonna now use my hands to just kind of gently spread it across the paper. And I have a nice long rectangular pan, round pans, like any kind of pan works. Now, if you also want to make fun, cute little shapes for your dog treats, you can totally do that for this next step. I actually like to take my parchment paper off the pan for a second and put it right on the counter instead of flouring the counter surface. But you can do that as well if you want to throw some oat flour or some other whole wheat flour down and then work your dough that way, that's fine. But I like to keep things super simple and as least amount of mess and cleanup as possible. So I just slide my parchment paper off the pan right onto the counter. And then now I'm just taking my dough right out. So see how it's sticking, it's forming. That's what you kind of want. It's really moldable. Is that a word? Malleable. All right, so I've got all my yum. Oh, it smells so good. Oh my gosh. Okay, it's for the dog though. Anyway, so now that I have my paper on the counter and my dough on the paper, and it's cool too because the way I spread the oil, I can kind of see the shape of the pan, but this does not have to be perfect science. I'm just kind of smashing it down and just using the base of my hand. And because I use my hands to oil the paper, the oil on my hand kind of helps keep it from sticking too much. Oh yeah, mine's way wet. Way wet. Usually that's a little bit drier, but I'm gonna make this work. And then I have another batch I made earlier that I can show you guys how it looks when it comes out. And I may, and if you have a rolling pin, you can use that as well. I'm gonna try it today. Usually I'm making a big mess. Usually I will like to just do, what am I trying to say? I just use my hands. But you know, rolling pins, I'm sprinkling a little bit more just to keep mine from sticking because it is a little wetter. And again, that's just because I added those pan drippings. But rolling pins are great. You just do a few rolls. It just kind of helps spread it a little bit. There we go. Oh, this one's sticking here. Just to kind of get it. Yeah. And then I'm going to work the rest with my hand. Now, I like my treats kind of thick. You can roll these as thin as you want. And like I said, if you want to use, what am I trying to say? Cookie cutters, like special, like fun shapes. Like I do have some dog bone shaped cutters that I use sometimes, especially if I'm using this like as a gift. For someone. It's really cute, and these come out in the little bone shapes. Or if you've got stars, hearts, I don't know, floppy dog ear, I don't know. There's a lot of different choices out there, but that's up to you. But for me, and when I'm making this just as a stash of treats to have on hand for Macy, I'm literally just doing like this, super, super, super simple. Because the shape, I mean, she doesn't care what it looks like, but she does care what it tastes like. And these are going to be delicious. Like, it just smells so, like, between the chicken, the rosemary. So now all I'm going to do is pick up the whole thing, and I'm going to set it right back on my pan. And then from there, I just go around the edges. Now, with the drier dough, like it normally is, you'll see more of this kind of separation and cracking on the edges. So I just go around and kind of mush them together. But my dough actually came out a lot wetter than usual, but again, it's still fine. So I'm not needing to do as much of that. And if you want it a little thinner, you can press it down more or roll it out more. But this is pretty much how I like mine to look. And because Macy is a large breed dog, I make her treat sizes pretty big. You know, I kind of, you know, when you buy those big dog biscuits at the store or in those boxes, they're pretty good size. But if you've got a smaller dog, or if you only want these for treat training or whatever, you can cut them whatever size you want. The fastest and most fun way to pre-cut these, because you are going to want to pre-cut them before you bake them. So that way, when you take them out, you literally just pop them off and put them in a container after they cool, and you're good to go. But you can use a pizza roller like I'm about to do now, and you just straight across. And like I said, I'm making these pretty decent size. You can make this batch as big as you want. You can double, triple the recipe. Have a few pans ready to go all at once. Yeah, so that's okay. So I use a pizza cutter. I also have a dough cutter. I've done this before. You can just go across, do the same thing. And then obviously you can also use just a butter knife or whatever knife you have, just to make your sections and sizes. So that is ready to go in the oven, and that's pretty much what it looks like. So it's not pretty because I didn't use any cookie cutters or anything, but it's done. And that's for me, that's the main goal. I'm all about quick, easy, healthy, and just something I can do realistically for our dogs. So this is the one that obviously I just made. Again, the oven is going to be preheated at 300, and then you're going to bake these for about, 25 to 30 minutes. But again, everyone's oven is a little different, so just kind of check on it. If you want them a little softer, you can take them out sooner. If you want more of a crunchy treat, you can just leave them in longer, but just kind of test them as you go. And then I'm going to move some of this out the way, and then I'm going to show you the batch that I made earlier, just so you guys can see how it comes out. So here's the one that's already made. This is still pretty hot. So yeah, but see how, like, parchment paper is great, but I added that little extra layer of oil, that avocado oil. And so see, they're ready to go. So all I do is, this is just a glass pie dish, just to set them out, let them cool. And you just pop them out on the dish, and they'll cool, and they're literally ready to go. So these came out mostly square, rectangle shapes. Like I said, I've made them using cookie cutters before. It just takes more time because, you know, you're cutting out the shapes and then you're kind of, you know, you gotta, you know, use the excess dough again, roll it back up, roll it back out. Like, I don't usually have a lot of time for that. But I can do this because it's super quick, super easy. And another little tip I'll give y'all, if you are thinking you're gonna start using oat flour and treats for your dog, I use it in meatball treats as well. I'll make another video about that. It's nice to just blend and, you know, have a whole, do a whole batch, use several cups, and then keep it in a Ziploc bag so that you're not having to stop and pull out your food processor or your blender every time you want to use oat flour in a meal or a treat for your dog. Preparation is everything, and it makes things a lot easier when you're taking the time to make whole quality foods and treats for your dog. So here we go. So these are pumpkin chicken oat treats for your dog, and they smell so good. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. Once these cool, I usually will stick them in like a Ziploc bag, and then I will keep them in the refrigerator just because these are, you know, whole real food ingredients. There's no preservatives or anything. So you want to keep it refrigerated so it lasts longer. These will last for several days. But honestly, I mean, my dogs have always loved these. Macy loves these now. And so they're not going to last very long. So I hope that was helpful. Please leave a comment below and let me know if this is something you've made or another version, or if you're going to try a different kind of meat or whatever else you want to add to it, and let me know how it comes out and how your dog liked it. Okay, come back, check out another video again. Thanks.